Did you know that we as human beings with a human brain have absolutely no say in whether or not we get programmed? So this is usually by default. Society, the media, parents and family, our culture, authority figures. But we absolutely do have a say when we have this awareness of how we get programmed or who and what we allow to program us. So, welcome to this 7th episode of Positive Programming for Cancer, a series I have that is monthly, so look out for more, where you will hear real, live, true, inspirational stories of those who had cancer and completely defied the odds and healed themselves. What did they do? What's different about them? In some cases, it's clear. In others, not so much. But either way, the more your brain hears these types of positive success stories, the more you will come to believe and know that it is possible for you too. Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Matejka, a naturopathic physician, energy worker, and transformational life coach, and I help those with cancer navigate their journey back to health and wellness to an even better state than before, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and maybe even spiritually. So we have a special story today, someone you may have heard of before, Dr. Veronique Desaulniers. I believe she was originally from Canada. She now lives in Florida, fellow Floridian like me. Well, I'm not from Florida, but I live in Florida. Spoiler alert. So she was a doctor of chiropractic. She graduated from chiropractic school in 1979. She had a strong history of family cancer. She had to go through the deaths of many beloved family members that died from cancer. Then in 1983, pancreatic cancer struck her father. This is where her and I have a similar story. Her father came down with pancreatic cancer, which we know was a bad one. So she did all the research she could, calling clinics, seeing how other people were curing their cancer. But it was too little, too late. And he died 6 weeks later. I had a similar story where my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and I started researching natural things, but it was also too little, too late. But because of that work that she did, she knew what to do for her mom when her mom was diagnosed with breast cancer about 13 years later in 1996, and she was able to help her mom. Fast forward though to 2004. She was doing her daily self breast exam in the shower. I don't know if it was in the shower. She was doing her daily self breast exam and noticed the lump and just innately, intuitively knew this was no fibrocystic breast disease. This was cancer. Confirmed it was. And despite this strong family history, she kept asking the question, why? Why? Why me? Why her? She lived a very clean, healthy life. She had been eating organic before it was in style. She had been having chiropractic work done on her since she was 16. She loved to exercise and run, ate well. She had home births, nursed her babies till they were 18 months. It just didn't quite make sense to her. But from her research, she did know that cancer cannot survive in a healthy, happy, alkaline body. So there was some work to be done. So internally, she addressed these issues. She did alkalize her body and juiced. She did a lot of detoxing with herbs and colonics. She detoxed her mouth by removing the mercury amalgams and had them replaced with biocompatible materials so she saw biologic dentists that help her remove the mercury. She followed a strict protocol of high doses of proteolytic enzymes, herbal tinctures, and homeopathics that worked on weakening the cancer cells and boosting and improving her immunity. She considered, and she did this right away. She considered her electrical system, her energy system, with things like acupuncture and chiropractic work. And she addressed emotional healing that needed to be done with energy psychology tools such as EFT. which is the emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. I personally like TFT, which is the father of EFT, which is thought field therapy. But anyway, externally, she used black salve. She applied a salve called black salve over the breast, which predominantly contains the herb bloodroot, which actually pretty aggressively attacks the tumor, draws it out, but leaves healthy cells relatively unscathed. This is an intense thing. It's within 3 weeks. So it started when she put it on, there appeared a little yellow dot ball that kept growing progressively and progressively. And by 3 weeks, it was the size of a golf ball. And by 4 weeks, the edges around it started cutting away and it fell out. So like all this unhealthy tissue, basically the tumor, it draws it out and it then disconnects and literally falls out. I know it sounds insane. Unfortunately, she saw that even after it fell out, there looked like there was still black, unhealthy tissue left behind. Later, she found out that her black salve was not from the best company and it was an inferior quality. So, quick note on black salve. You may have never heard about this before, in which case this sounds insane. Or you may have heard about it and you may have heard some negative things about it and not to use it and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's predominantly because, again, yes, there are many inferior products out there. So when people say, oh, supplements don't work and this and that, a lot of times it's because they're very inferior quality supplements or not the correct supplements, not formulated correctly. And it's the same with black salve. Although I do recommend, and as well as Dr. Veronique Desaulniers, not to use this black salve, not to use this black salve as a first line of treatment. This is more of a last resort because it is excruciatingly painful, like 24/7 burning pain. And yeah, it'll remove some of that tissue, but maybe that's not the focus. There's more, she believes, and I also agree, that there's more to healing cancer than just removing the tumor. So, although removing the tumor, whether through surgery or something like the black salve, it can definitely speed healing along, to get that out of the way. So, quick note there. But yeah, after that, she worked on healing this big wound, this big hole in her chest, and continuing on with the, parts of her protocol and hoping that that would be enough and monitoring it with things like thermography and other diagnostic measures. But unfortunately, although not too surprisingly, the tumor returned in 2006. So 2 years later, it returned, most likely because that was a bad black salve that didn't fully expel it. And so this time it was bigger. It was more superficial though. This time she found a black salve from a reputable company, a company she knew and trusted, and did that process again. And it took about the same amount of time, 4 weeks, a month, for it to be completely, all the unhealthy tissue and tumor to be drawn up to the surface and forming that scab or eschar, and then for it to sort of work its way out and it separates itself out from the healthy tissue and basically fall out. Oh, and by the way, when it fell out the second time, there was healthy looking tissue underneath. So this higher quality black salve the second time around seemed to have done the trick. And she wrote a book and she became quite known and helped other people heal from their cancer. But it doesn't end there. In 2015, she was diagnosed with breast cancer again. This was a heavy hit. This was a gut punch. This was difficult. She already had gained notoriety and some fame for being the cancer conqueror, the breast cancer conqueror, helping women do the same. How could she feel reputable, credible, integrous? This was a hard one for her. She didn't reveal her journey right away, but she did believe in herself. So this is important. Think about this for a moment. In many areas of your life, you can apply something like this too. When something like that happens, I know I'm guilty. How often are we like, I guess, I guess this wasn't meant to be. I guess I'm not meant to be this. I guess I'm not meant to do that. Or the fear totally get you like, oh no, ah, or just, yeah, just be crushed by that. Like, I guess I failed. I tried and failed. It was a total failure. I really am not meant to help women in this way because I couldn't help myself. But she didn't succumb to that. She kept going. She dug deeper. She did new research, more research, got some depth. What could she do this time to heal? What was the root? She did know she was kind of neglecting her health. She was so busy with her practice and helping everybody else that she kind of neglected to take care of her own health. This is also a very common theme with breast cancer. There actually was a study about this where one of the main themes of women with breast cancer was that they took care of everybody else and neglected themselves. They really had no boundaries for themselves. They always gave, said yes, 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 and they were always last. That happens commonly in breast cancer. So, what did she do this time around? So, she created and followed the 7 essential system. She did no conventional treatment, no conventional treatment. I'm going to tell you what the 7 essential system is that she used to cure herself and that she is also coaching other women to do. Now, if you want to dive deeper into this, you can get her book, #1 bestseller on Amazon, Heal Breast Cancer Naturally, 7 Essential System to Beating Breast Cancer. Okay, so one of the 7 essentials is early detection. Okay, for most of us, that's probably a moot point and a little late. But it's good if you have had a diagnosis before. She has certain advice on early detection. Of course, the earlier you discover it, the better. Let food, #2, really in no particular order. In fact, I might be saying them out of order, but let food be your medicine. Let food be your medicine. What you eat is so important during cancer, despite what your oncologist may say. And even if you're eating well, organic, and all this and that, there is always a way to really strategize it to be more specifically anti-cancer, especially considering the exact type of cancer you may have. And then there's reducing toxic exposures. Reducing toxic exposures. Gosh, where do toxic exposures come from? I mean, there's so many. We have toxins in our food, in our water, in our air, in our cleaning products, in our personal hygiene products, in our cookware. So many places, in our mouths possibly, if we have some not so great dentistry. So there's a lot to consider there. That's a whole thing in itself. Repairing the body with therapeutic plants. Repairing the body with therapeutic plants. That's a nice one. Embracing biologic dentistry. That's another one, actually. It's kind of its own thing, even though I think it kind of goes along with reducing toxic exposures. But embracing biologic dentistry, really important to get that mercury out. And it's not just mercury, there's other things, there's other metals and things that are not so great to be in your mouth. And then what I love is that the last 2 are very on the emotional, energetic side, because that is so important. And that's one of my biggest messages to the world. And I'm not the only one that thinks so, because I thought this way before I discovered other doctors that did. So one of her 7 essentials is energetic balance. Energetic balance. And she stresses specifically things like meditation, stress management, and the importance of vagal tone, which is basically like calming your nervous system. So yeah, and we know from studies that stress management is really important when it comes to cancer, and we know all the benefits of meditation. So this is one of her 7 essentials. essentials, might I emphasize. And then last but not least, certainly not least, usually they save the best for the last, is healing emotional wounds. Healing emotional wounds. I've been talking about this for a while. She might have been talking about it before me because she's older than me. But healing emotional wounds, and this is can do this in various ways, but she stresses things like letting go, forgiveness, self-love, the importance of community, peer support, all things that are part of my coaching program as well. So yeah, if you want to learn more about those, like I said, you can get her book, Healing Cancer Naturally, or is it Healing Breast Cancer Naturally? 7 Essential System to Beating Breast Cancer Naturally, something like that. Thank you for joining. So, needless to say, she's alive and well, thriving, speaking internationally, coaching women, all that kind of good stuff. She's doing well. And hey, if you want to know more about what is the difference between those who heal themselves from cancer and those that don't, especially when it's rough, when the prognosis is poor, when it is said that they may not heal, you may not heal from conventional treatment, check out my free gift. I'll leave the link in the description box. I wrote an article. You could call it a short ebook. It's like 38 pages, but there's pictures. It's pretty. And it's called The 10 Common Healing Factors Among Cancer Survivors Who Beat the Odds. If they can do it, so can you. And this delves into decades of research by Kelly A. Turner on what those who had a spontaneous remission from cancer had in common. And they all had all of these things in common. So definitely check it out. And best on your journey, best on your journey. Also, if you want to fill out my application for coaching, I am accepting a few coaching clients. And till next month for positive programming, I do have weekly videos, but next month will be the positive programming episode number 8. But you can find these on your own. Don't wait around monthly for mine. You could just go to like a search bar in Spotify or YouTube or whatever. You can just search podcast cancer survival stories, and there's so much that comes up. There's books about this, just seek it out, search it out seriously, because the more, and you can, especially it's easy listening if it's like a podcast or an audiobook, but it's nice to read sometimes too. Again, just the more you fill your mind with this and the more you hear these types of success stories, it really does rewire the brain, and it really does help you start to believe that yes, what one can do, anyone can do. Remember that, because it's true. All right, till then, till next time. Bye, everybody.